Hey, what's up y'all? Daniel here from Never Enough Tech. Elephant in the room, I'm acutely aware that many of you are expecting a Sony review, as review the Sonys seems to be your auto replies to all of my videos. I got the HGA 7000 crossed off. Unfortunately, the HGA 9 is playing really hard to get. Consider it prioritized. Okay, sorry not sorry, going all Sonos today. Admit it, a lot of you out there are thirsty for a slick Sonos system. You're teetering on the edge, got the components in your cart, and just need a solid advice nugget to press the complete purchase button. Or not, either way, just get your girl to look the other way. So what am I reviewing? The big one, the flagship, the Sonos Arc, released mid-2020, now retailing at $900, $100 more than its initial price. Sonos wants in on the inflation game too, I guess. And the old/renewed/half the price/cute one, the Beam 2, released mid-2021 at $399, which was already $50 more than the original Beam price, but recently got hiked another $50, so $450, $100 more expensive than the original Beam. Yeah, that's something like a 30% markup on the original Beam price. A fight video doesn't seem quite right here, as these products are not in the same weight class, both literally and figuratively. Instead, here's what I'm going to talk about. First, what they did to the Beam that made Sonos think it's worthy of a 2. Second, notable software updates the Arc received in the last 18 months. Third, the Arc and Beam Venn diagram, where they intersect and don't spec and feature-wise. Fourth, sound check with and without the friends. And fifth, I'll wrap up with my commentary and buying advice. Quick detour, I will be referring to 2 Arcs in this review. The Sonos Arc, as in a provocative, curvy Sonos soundbar. Ooh. And audio return channel, often shortened to the acronym ARC, which to save even more time is just called Arc, which is an HDMI port, not a curvy Sonos soundbar. So it's not your imagination, I will be making the Arc sound quite a bit throughout the review, but referring to 2 different things. So pay attention. Okay, let's get to it. So what's new with the 2? 3 things. It got naked, dropped the fuzzy robe, and replaced it with a punctured polycarbonate grille. So English, it has an uppity plastic grille. And a puncture pattern that brings it closer to the Arc design language. Second, it got a powered up Arc port, enhanced audio return channel or eARC, which, with the requisite software, enables lossless audio formats like Atmos via Dolby True HD and lossless DTS:X. The Beam 2 at this time supports the Dolby Suite, DTS Digital Surround, an introductory DTS tier, and multi-channel PCM, a lossless surround audio format typically spit out of your gaming consoles. Just for reference, the original Beam, after a recent update, supports just Dolby Digital 5.1 and DTS Digital Surround 5.1. Anyway, third, last but not least, the Beam 2 received an updated processor, giving it the smarts to separate the sound from what looks and smells like a 3-channel system to a 5-channel system, adding 2 virtual height channels, enabling support, again, for Dolby's 3D audio format, Dolby Atmos. Yes, even Dolby True HD style Atmos, the lossless Atmos version. Okay, let's just be honest with ourselves. eARC and 3D audio compatibility is a catch-up, not a leapfrog update. This update merely raises the Beam 2 to what we expect from soundbars in 2021 on a specs front. Just to avoid potential confusion, even though the Beam 2 is Atmos certified, the Beam 2 shares the same driver array as the original Beam, with a left, center, and right driver channel, along with 3 radiators for an enhanced bass response. The center channel, as with the original Beam, is composed of a dual woofer tweeter trio to assist in dialogue clarity, and like the original Beam, you will not find any upward firing speakers. The top of the bar remains solid plastic. Ain't no sound coming out that way, because it's blocked by solid plastic. Okay, moving on to Big Brother, the Arc, the curvy soundbar, not the HDMI port. It was released in 2020, was tasked with updating the play bar, though it did also shoo off the play bass. The Arc can do all the stuff the original Beam and play bar could do, and more. So the Arc gave a hard pass on the fuzzy sweater, got all the AirPlay and voice goodies like the Beam and Beam 2. It debuted with eARC, skipping Arc altogether, and shipped with support for the full Dolby suite, including Dolby True HD and Atmos, bolstered by 2 dedicated upward firing drivers to reinforce 3D sound height effects. Anyway, 2020 and 2021, and even some 2022, has been good to the Arc. A few months after release, the Arc got multi-channel PCM or LPCM support, so better compatibility with the Apple TV and gaming consoles, a big deal if your TV is not converting LPCM to a Dolby signal. It also got EQ enhancements targeting vocal clarity and sensitivity to when the bar is mounted on a wall, to reduce unwanted reverberation. Along the way, Sonos enabled dual sub support for all the Sonos soundbars. Controls for adjusting height channel levels were added, an Arc-specific update, giving you the option to pep up your 3D height effects. And in a more recent update, Sonos added support for DTS digital surround, meaning if you have a DTS Blu-ray or digital file and you play it natively, you get sound as opposed to silence and static. Let's just say Beam 2 got all this except for the height channel volume controls. Okay, then so why does the Sonos Arc cost twice as much as the Beam 2? Well, one can merely speculate, but let's just take a leap and say it has something to do with the number of noisemakers. With the Arc, you get 11 digital amplifiers, 8 full-range woofers plus 3 tweeters. Beam, just 5 amplifiers, 4 woofers and 1 tweeter, but also 3 passive radiators to improve the low frequency response. The Arc and Beam have sound makers pushing sound forward and angle to the side, but the Arc adds height channels, which allows for more natural 3D sound height effects. The Arc is also a higher powered system, though Sonos is not all that forthcoming with those details. The Beam has the physical makings of a 3.0 system and the Arc a 5.0.2. And just to clear up confusion, adding surrounds to the Beam 2 would make it a 5.0 system, though strangely adding surrounds to the Arc does not increase the channel count. But a 5.0.2 channel system certainly sounds more 5-channel-ish if the surround rear channels are separated from the bar. This may be relevant to you, maybe not, though a potential downside of the Arc is that it's just taller than the Beam 2, so potentially obscuring more of your TV if sitting on a media center. Anyway, the Arc is equipped for bigger sound, but other than that, these two bars operate the same with virtually identical features and compatibility with the rest of the Sonos ecosystem. Does the Arc give you $450 more sound than the Beam 2? Before we get to that, let me give you my thoughts on the Sonos experience and why I have bought so many of them, knowing full well they are not the best sounding audio device. Sonos is not sponsoring this. Okay. As far as I can tell, and at this point I've had significant exposure to many soundbar systems, the overall experience, which is different than sound quality, utility, or number of features, is unmatched, as I kind of suspected from the beginning of my soundbar journey. Why? Well, Sonos does the best job of becoming a seamless extension to your TV. This is massive. While no soundbar is perfect, Sonos enhances your TV sound without you having to think about it much. It doesn't feel like an extra device you need to cajole into cooperating with the TV. So how does Sonos do it? Well, first, it eats a lot of power while on standby to assist in responsiveness. So keep that in mind if power is limited or you hate power-hungry bars. Second, it doesn't have any other inputs to manage and is designed to work well without a dedicated remote. Again, Sonos is most serious in making the soundbar disappear, even at the expense of other features. Okay, I'll admit, Sonos is generally better for Apple users, but in either case, the app does not feel like a one-off piece of garbage designed by a first-year coder in a university class. No offense. Okay, a little offense. The app gives you an admirable level of control over the system, as well as a unified way to get your audio content onto the bar. It's extremely clear to me, at least, no other bar maker cares as much for the app experience. It's not even close. And you over there, I've talked to you, go sit in the corner with your SmartThings comment. There is no way an app also meant to control vacuums and dryers will compete with the Sonos app in the overall experience of controlling a soundbar system and its content. Okay, let's talk stability. I'm not going to cover all the technical details here, but in my experience, Sonos' surround and subs wireless connection is far more stable than you get with your regular plug-and-play systems that find each other on an easily disturbed data transfer protocol. All the systems have cutout issues, but it's far less of an issue with Sonos. Okay, this is a big one for me. Every time you buy a Sonos product, it feels like you're investing in something bigger than just the thing. It's extremely satisfying for me to know that I can get any one speaker to talk and sync with any other speaker, and I can easily swap out components and repurpose products as new ones arise. And for the most part, the old and new components can coexist. The ecosystem is so strong, both the Beam and Arc are compatible with the same friends. I love it. Sonos is the brand you get if you value quality of life and long, peaceful relationships. But maybe you're into more exciting relationships. More seriously, maybe some hassle is totally worth what you consider superior sound and/or utility. Totally fair.
Girl, I'm just here stating facts. You want me to take you back? I want you to take me back. You want me to take you back? I want you to take me back. So tell me, is you gon' ride out when the chips fall? I seen too many people leave when it get hot. I'm tired of going back and forth when we pissed off. Most of my friends don't went through it and they stood tall. See, they gon' try and tell you what they think is good.
Strengthen on it. Strengthen on it. Sprinkle it on it. Have my signal. Unleash hell.
For advance.
Archer's ready.
There's nothing else I'd rather be doing with my life. I don't care.
Okay, let's talk music. Just Arc versus just Beam 2. What stuck out the most to me is that the Arc executed a more diffuse sound, seemingly more concerned with giving all 7 channels some love, getting stuff bouncing off walls, and flooding the room with waves from a dozen different directions, rather than delivering a crisp, cohesive 2-channel song. One might come to the conclusion that the Arc is not aggressive enough in emphasizing the most critical aspects of the sound. Maybe the vocals could be more prominent and the woodblock could be muted a little. Keeping these criticisms in perspective, I've never really developed these opinions about the Arc until toggling between the Beam and Arc, which is admittedly a really weird thing to do. The Beam came across more as a laser pointer with the mission to deliver straight line sound, but with a surprisingly wide stereo effect, considering the size impediments and length challenges. I guess it's the new processor doing work. I would bet that a non-insignificant portion of you would prefer the Beam sound profile when playing music. It strikes more of a party vibe, more stimulating, more aggressive than the Arc. But its weakness is that it does come across a little more artificial and processed. The sound leans toward bright. It is clean and clear, punchier, but noticeably thinner. Overall, the Arc alone seems to be doing something more premium, relying on real drivers to create a sense of space, fill the room with sound. I'd say the sound is more rich and lush, but side by side with the Beam, it can come across a pinch more mellow, and I dare say, muddier. But if you were to barge in during my listening and say, I'm confusing muddier with less processed, I may not have a good counterargument. For just music, I see the Arc as having the more prominent body and the Beam as having more definition and maybe with an over-generous portion of shiny lotion. Not to make it creepy or anything. Okay, talking Sonos alone and Beam alone with video audio. It's largely the same story. The Beam sounded more crisp, bright, center channel dialogue-y. Don't steal my fancy words, Andrew.
They're sibilant and even grainy.
The Arc sounded more natural, though one strange quirk with music and video audio is at every volume level, the Beam sounds louder than the Arc, but perhaps more strained. But dang, is it hard to miss the dialogue on the Beam. Consider it isolated. Maybe the most pressing question of this whole exercise is, can the Beam deliver convincing 3D audio, in particular, convincing height effects? Well, sorry, nothing to write home about when it's by itself. It's there, but clearly limited. It can simulate sound beyond the length of the bar, but it's more convincing in the horizontal than the vertical direction, as you might imagine. Now, the Arc's tendency to bounce sound everywhere with real speakers is much more self-serving in the context of a Dolby Atmos action movie than, say, a Paul Simon song. For anything like a convincing 3D bubble, I would really aim to at least buy surrounds with either system. It always seems like it's asking too much to get to the 3D promised land with just a soundbar. Okay, the bar's with friends. So I was really expecting that the benefits of the Arc would be largely diluted in the context of a full setup, perhaps providing a reasonable argument to say $450. While the surrounds and sub do significantly improve the range and spatial nature of the sound, the bars still lead the band and largely color the performance. I really kind of expected that if you were on the border for the Arc or Beam, paying extra for the Arc would make the most sense if you were just buying the bars separately and not with friends. You know, where there are no other speakers to lean on to make up for weaknesses. The value difference would be the most naked with the bars alone. That was my hypothesis. If you're mostly interested in music, I think it's really a question of whether you want punchy, focused, so that would be the Beam, or natural, thicker, which would be the Arc. However, with video, talking full setup, the Arc really clobbers the Beam. The full setup really does fill out the room. It generates a much more defined bubble. In general, it just sounds more coordinated, working harmoniously with the surrounds and sub. Is it the most wow system you can buy? Absolutely not. Is it a quality product? Yes. I definitely respect what Sonos is doing here. The Beam full setup with video, while sounding pretty good, sounds much more narrow, less immersive, and I sensed less cohesiveness between the bar and surrounds. The ensemble didn't fuse in the same way. Doing my best to encapsulate the advice, the Arc is better. That's maybe not surprising, but if you are wavering between just the Arc and Beam and think you're stretching your budget a bit too much on the Arc, go with the Beam and feel confident about it. And then maybe repurpose the Beam if you're ready for the Arc purchase down the line. In any case, I really do think both bars or both systems are worth buying. I really endorse Sonos if you're trying to reduce hassle in your life. I'm not sponsored. For these two bars, I've elected to use the Beam and two surrounds as my computer speakers. I know it's a little weird. I do own a few Arcs, but the latest one here I put in my bedroom, paired it with a sub and two IKEA frames. It's very slick. Day to day, using both these systems as a normal human, really no complaints. Both a joy to use. Okay, officially tired. I'm gonna wrap this up. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.